Perfect. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure for me being here again in a new class. This time, we are going to be talking about herbs. So, how to be growing herbs at home, especially at home. Now that we are getting closer to the fall, so now it's going to be a little chilly. So the plants in the garden, we will love to keep growing all year round. And unfortunately, for some vegetables, fruits, we cannot do it all year round unless there is a greenhouse or something. But other than that, we cannot be growing. But with herbs, we have that exception that we can be growing herbs all year round. And this is why today we are going to be learning about how to be growing herbs at home. So this presentation is called Homegrown Herbal Bliss, the art of growing herbs at home. I'm Christian Acosta, agriculture educator from Cornell Cooperative Extension, Allegheny County. And well, let's start. This is what we are going to be talking today. So getting ready to plant herbs, plant requirements, cultural practices, harvesting, and how to be using our herbs. So if you have questions, feel free to unmute your microphone and ask or just in the chat, and I will be answering your questions. If you can, just by voice, because right now I have just one screen here, so I cannot be checking the chat. But let's start. Okay, so why to be growing herbs at home and when it's the season, growing herbs outside? Why to be doing that? So the herbs, they are delicious. That's one of the probably the number one reason that is delicious, and it makes our drinks and our meals more tasty. Also, because of the health benefits. So it's not only delicious and smells so good, also it provides health benefits, and we can save money growing our herbs at home. So how many times have you been like, you want rosemary, you want basil, you want lavender, you want some herbs, especially in the winter, because right now we can go out and it's the season, right? So they are cheap. But especially in the winter, during the winter, we go to the stores and sometimes just a small case of for example, rosemary or basil or some fresh herbs, and small case, tiny, and it can be $5 for something that is just a small quantity in there. So it's something that we can be doing at home and saving that money. Also, well, as I mentioned, just the flavor and the smells of the herbs, and just like something plus, something extra during the winter, just having something green and growing at home. Yeah, nice smell. And when everything is dead and just cloudy and snowing outside, we can have something beautiful, green, growing at home. So that is also something nice about growing our herbs. Now, there are many, many thousands of herbs around the world, but that doesn't mean that we can plant all of them here in New York State, because even when it's indoors, we have different conditions that, for example, the tropical countries, tropical areas. So we cannot provide, even indoors, we cannot provide exactly the same conditions for the plants than being in the tropic, for example. So here in your state, these are the plants, the herbs that they are good to be growing around here, that you are going to be successful growing in your state. And it's these ones like basil, oregano, mint, sage, thyme, lavender, chamomile, dill, parsley, rosemary. And probably you can try with another herb. So something that comes to my mind right now is, for example, lemongrass. So, okay, we can try with that. But it's not that easy. It's not going to be that easy because lemongrass, they like something in a different hardiness area. They like more kind of like tropical, more something warmer all year round. So of course we can try with different herbs, not only these ones, but the success rate is going to be lower. So with these ones, you can start. Even if it's the first time that you're going to be growing herbs at home, with these ones, you're going to be doing well. Okay, so when to start planting our herbs? So because we are going to be doing it indoors, we have that advantage that we don't need to wait until the last frost or just a couple months until the summer. No, we can start at any time. But just the best time to be planting our seeds, our herbs at home, it's in February. Yeah, in the middle of the winter, the coldest month in the year. So in February, you can start your seeds indoor before the last frost. So if your plan is to take those seedlings or those plants outside in the garden when finally it's the time to take plants outside. So in February is a good time to start. So the herbs, they have some minimum temperatures that they can tolerate to be growing. So of course, the warmer, the better. For most of them, they are going to be growing beautiful and fast, like right now in the summer. But just the lowest temperatures, this is an example that you can see here. So this is a scientific research that reports this minimum temperature. So for example, for basil, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, there are some of them that they can survive the winter. They are frost tolerant. So for example, the mint, sage, thyme, lavender. So these are the temperatures, right? But it depends about how windy it can get. If you have in a pot or it's directly in the ground. So if it's directly in the ground, it's even better because in a pot, even when the pots say it's frost resistant, all of this, it doesn't mean that it keeps the temperature in there. So take this in mind because these are the temperatures, but if you have everything in pots and then taking outside and, for example, having thyme, or just a better example because this is lavender. So lavender is like, yeah, but it's frost tolerant, but I took my lavender out and it died. It didn't overwinter. So this is a perfect example because I have heard that many times about especially lavender. So it can be too windy, and also just the fact that it's in a pot, the temperature can be even lower. But when they are in the ground, they directly in the garden, so just the ground and the snow, that layer of snow that protects a little bit the roots and those stems of the plant enough for them to keep alive, to keep there and survive the winter. But sorry, but if you want to do it 100% indoors, even during the summer, having your plants indoors, you can do that. So you're not going to be suffering about this, and you can start at any time during the year. So where to start growing your herbs? This is something nice about herbs, and it's because it's not the same. So before moving, I want you to think about if you want to start growing herbs, just plants in general. For example, you want a zucchini. So it's like almost impossible to keep indoors, right? Because it's a lot of leaves. It grows a lot. So you will need at least a good space indoors to keep a zucchini alive, and it will grow a lot, right? But with herbs, this is something that we have that advantage, and is that you don't need a big space or you don't need a huge pot And they are so grateful that they can be growing in small containers, big containers, even something like this that is just a bottle after you drink the water, of course, and just opening a hole and just putting some little holes on the bottom for drainage and putting some potting mix and the seeds, and that's it. So for small herbs, they start growing in there. They are so, uh, I like to say, grateful. And it's when the plants, they don't ask for much. They just, with a little bit of water, nutrients, enough light, and they are, so they thrive and they survive, they grow. So they are grateful. So you can start using just recycled containers. It's something nice, especially when you have kids at home, because when sometimes it's a little boring, especially in the winter, for example, and the kids are just there at home. So this is a fun activity, and it's just, for example, taking bottles or some containers that you're not using in the kitchen, etc., and start decorating, opening the little holes on the bottom, and buying the potting mix in the store, and start growing your herbs at home. So this is a fun project also to include the kids and teaching them how to be growing herbs, why to be growing herbs, and how it smells and it's delicious. That if they don't like in that way, or they don't like the smells, probably they like in the kitchen in different uh, recipes, etc. I like when I have the programs with the kids and I bring some sage, for example, that the smell is strong, and they are like, no, I don't like that. And then you can teach them, okay, so do you like breakfast sausage? So yeah, I love that. So yeah, okay. So this plant is in your sausage for breakfast. So like, really, really. So that is something nice that we can be learning with them and teaching them. So it's nice to have another reason that is nice to have the herbs at home. If it's outdoors, you can be plant directly in the garden, or also with pots outdoors, having some vertical gardens. Like for example, this here, if you can see the tires. So also another project that you can be doing with the kids, just decorating, painting some of the tires, and recycling. Same time you're recycling materials and putting some potting mix here, and the herbs or the flowers, they are going to be growing there, and it's beautiful. You can hang this in your on your fence, and it's nice. So it's also bringing some fun projects. Uh, well, I'm talking about potting mix or some substrates. So what you can use to be growing the herbs. So we cannot use any soil, or just bring in some soil from the garden, especially if it's, for example, high in sand, because the water is just going to go fast. And some of the herbs, they are susceptible to be dry. For example, basil. When the basil is just like dying, it's because at some point the soil is too dry, and the plant needs always some water in the ground, in the soil. So the best way that you can do it is you can do it by yourself. So here, this something that you can be doing, that is 33% or a third of compost, a third of perlite, and 1/3 of cocoa peat. You can find this in the stores or ordering online. Also, there are some potting mix for herbs. So nowadays there are many products that they make us lazy, and I say, yeah, they provide everything ready for you. So okay, potting mix for vegetables, for herbs, for tomatoes, for flowers. So you can see multiple potting mix, multiple soil and substrates in the stores. If it's for a rice bed, if it's for vegetable gardens, etc. If not, you can do it in this way, because it's something simple And just make sure that the containers, like I was mentioning with the examples, always the little holes for drainage, because it's really important that the plant has some drainage. If we have some containers that they don't have any holes on the bottom, so we can be adding water, and at some point that is just a mess because the microorganisms in there, if it's a lot of water, so the oxygen is going out of that pot, and then the microorganisms there start just working, growing, and there is not a balance in there, so the plants start getting the common one is root rot. So try to avoid that. And even if you have some budget for this, or you want go for something a little fancy, you can find also online or in the stores, you can see something like this. And they are pots for the herbs, but like technology, with some technology, with the lights, the growing lights. And some of them, they have some temperature, like to keep the potting in some temperature. Some of them can tell you if it's dry, if it's not dry. Well, there are many, many options nowadays. Also the towers, something like here in this example. So those are hydroponic towers. So with these towers, they are a little pricey starting. So if it's the first time, it's going to be pricey because they are at least 1,000, 2,000 sometimes, or a couple $100. But usually they last for many, many years. So if you do the math, at the end, it's not that expensive for all the years that you're going to have these towers at home. But also take in mind that the space, they take some space at home. And something nice is that you don't need to place them close to a window or something, because for many of them, they already have also the lights included. So you can be growing herbs and also some vegetables like the lettuce, arugula. Okay, so moving. We have some, we used to think that if the plants gets a lot of light, they are going to grow happy. But think about that plant, even if it's not herbs, it's probably a succulent or a tomato plant, or well, any plant that you get at some point, and you put it directly in the window, and then you add water, you're taking care of the plant, but the plant is dying, is just turning yellow, and is then after turning yellow, turning brown and dying. So what is happening there? And it's because, yeah, plants, they, in this case, herbs, they like sun, but too much, it can be stressful for them. So we call this, in a scientific term, is stress by light. So yeah, the plants can be stressed if it's too much light. So if you see this table here, there is something here. You can see the different herbs and hours of direct light, and something common. So some of them, they like less hours of direct light. Some of them, they like more. But something in common for all of them is about between 7 and 8 hours of direct light per day. And what about 10 or 12 or more than 12? So they are going to be stressed. So this is one of the reasons why your herbs, probably if you keep in the window all day, if it's more than 12 hours of direct sunlight, it's going to be stressed, that plant. So here, so we can see the plant, place the planter in a sunny southern facing window. So, okay, especially in the summer, take care that if it's 10 hours or more, the plant probably is going to be stressed at some point. So even there is some nice projects that you can be doing. Well, I forgot to put the picture here. That is, it's something that you can put close to it's like a shelf that you can put installed close to the window, and it moves the plants. So it's Many, for example, from 8 to 3 p.m. or 5 p.m., for example, and then you can move back that shelf. So now the plants are close to the wall and not the window. So you can have you can manage that time. The project is, I think it's also on YouTube about how to build that one, because it's easy. It's just with some pieces of wood and pole. I haven't done that one, but I have seen the video and I have seen the pictures of that one. It's nice. If not, if you have just one or two planters, you can do it by yourself. Just taking the planter out of the window and place it in another area, or just a different window that is not a lot of sunlight, direct sunlight on the plant, because they are going to suffer. So you can take this picture or this screenshot so you can have the idea about what is the ideal sun requirement or light requirement for your plants. What about watering? This is probably, move this here. The watering. So this is probably the number one problem, why we kill our herbs or flowers or plants at home. And it's watering. This is one of the common questions and common problems, especially indoors, because outdoors we don't have much that problem, but indoors we have that problem. And it's because sometimes we can see the pot dry and it looks dry and oh my God, the plant needs water. So we just go and pour some water. Next day, oh, it's dry again. So go and put more water. But probably the water is just there, but it's just the surface that is dry. So in that case, this is a simple method that you can be using, and it's going to be highly effective. And it's just with your finger. So just about 2 inches, put directly in the ground, in the substrate, in the soil, and check your finger after that. If it's like the first 2 images here, so it means that the plant is good. There is some water in there, so you don't need to add more water. And for the third example, that this finger is a little dirty, but it's dry, right? You don't see the soil, the substrate coming out, stick there to your finger. So in that case, yeah, it's dry. Go and add some water. So this is a simple method. If it's like this, or like the second example, do not water. If it's like the third example, yeah, go and water the plant. Like I was mentioning, nowadays we can find products to make everything easier. So if you have the budget for that, there are some devices like this. For example, this is just one of the many examples that it's a small device and you put it there in the pot or in the garden, or it can be outdoors or indoors. And you put it there, and this device is going to tell you with your smartphone or screen. Well, it depends the company. And it's going to tell you the humidity, the light, and sometimes the pH. So if it's low pH, high pH, if it's time to put some water to water the plants or not, if it's too much light or if it's enough, too much or too little sunlight, everything is going to be tell you these parameters. That it's amazing, but of course that's a little pricey. But if you have the budget for that, that is going to make everything for you. You don't need to be paying attention to everything. Just check your phone or check that app, and that's it. Also, there are a cheaper option that is with the moisture meter. So there are some devices like this. They look pretty similar one each other because there are some of these same color and everything, that is to measure the moisture Or another one can be for pH, another one can be for sunlight. So these ones are cheaper options because these ones you can find sometimes for about $15 or less. Well, I'm not sure about the price. You can find those ones online too. And you just put it there in the garden or in the pots, and it's going to tell you whatever you want. If it's for pH, if it's for water or light. So that makes everything a little bit easier. Okay, so let's move this again. So what about plant propagation? So we have two options, and probably you know this. So or seedlings or the seeds. If you're going to start from seeds, on February, you can start, like I mentioned in the beginning. If you start from seeds, especially when you keep the seeds, that it's something that all of us, we do, and it's because we don't use all of the seeds from the package. So we can have seeds from 1 to 5, 6 years ago, and we still have some seeds at home. So when you have these seeds, like old seeds, it's better, and I highly recommend to be running a seed germination test. It's something so simple like this picture here. The first to the right, the first one. It's just in a Ziploc bag or a small container, something that you can close. Just put some wet paper towels and put some seeds in there. With 10 seeds, for example, it's enough. 10 seeds, and then just close the container or close the Ziploc bag, put it in a not totally dark, not directly in the sun, just semi shady area, and wait for a couple days and start paying attention about how many of the seeds are germinating. So if you have, for example, you have 10 seeds for this germination test, like you can see here in this picture, well, in this example, there are more than 10. And you have 5 of them. For example, if I have 10 seeds and just 5 of them are germinating and the other ones not. So it means that my seeds have about 50% of germination rate. So it means that I need double of the seeds. If I want 20 plants, I need to put about 40 seeds. If you don't want to be doing that, so just go and get new ones, new seeds, because when they are, I call fresh, when they are from the store the same year, so usually they already run that germination test, and you just read the label so you can see the germination percentage. Read the labels because, for example, you are going to find out that basil, for example, the basil, it has a low germination rate. So don't feel bad if you put some seeds of basil and it's not germinating, because it's not you. It's not that you have a black thumb or something like that. No, it's because the basil, it has a low germination rate. So you need more seeds to make it grow, like to have some plants growing from those seeds. If you have the time, the patience for that, do it in this way. If not, go to the local nurseries, to the local greenhouses, and get the seedlings. So we can do seeds or the seedlings. Something about seedlings: try to get the seedlings from local nurseries or greenhouses, because that means that the plants are already adapted to the area. Personally, I have had the experience, and this year I also had that experience, that I got a plant, and this person bought the plant for me. So this person bought the plant in a grocery store. So I don't know this plant from where, like where this plant come from. So I don't know, but definitely it's not local. It's not from this area, because the plant, it was stressed even when it was out in the garden. I provide the fertilizer, everything, light, water, everything. and it was stressed. So the plant was turning yellow, it wasn't growing, it didn't grow, and it was stressed. So it means that the plant was suffering, and probably those plants, they are coming from another state, probably different environments. It's not local. And when I go and get the plants from the some of the local nurseries, local greenhouses, I have a lot of basil that sometimes I feel that I need to give away because it's too much, it's growing a lot. So that's one of the tips. Also, one of the reasons why your plants are not growing, because try to avoid, and I'm not saying that they are, all of them, they are bad, but try to avoid from, especially these big grocery stores or big companies that probably they are bringing those plants from different environments. And of course, the plant is going to take some time to be adapted to the area. Something that with herbs, we don't have much time, right? And that's something nice about herbs, and is that if it's local, they are going to be growing a lot. Just look for pests and diseases. It's easy. You don't need to be a scientist to know about pest diseases and all that. It's just by eye. If the plant is yellow, it's turning brown, for example, you know that something is going on with that plant. So avoid that plant. Even if it's the last plant in the nursery or in the store, try to avoid that one, because just one plant that has some insects, or you can see the insects flying around, some insects or some diseases, just with one plant, it's enough for starting a problem with your plants, especially when it's indoors, because indoors it's not that easy to control pests and diseases, because we cannot be spraying chemicals, for example, indoors, right? So be a little picky when you're buying your plants, your seedlings. And when you have from previous plants, so you can be cutting for example, for the mint, or here we have an example about the garlic, for mint, spearmint, peppermint, ginger, that you can be just propagating by the roots or the rhizomes or the bulbs. So it's easier. You don't need to be buying plants and plants and plants. Just just taking from one plant, put it in another pot, and keep growing your herbs at home. Okay, now fertilizers. This is something that in the past it was a little headache, because we needed to get some fertilizers and doing the math. So because with fertilizer we can burn the plant if it's a lot of nutrients in there. The plant can, and especially touching the stem of the plant, yeah, the plant can suffer, and we are burning the plant. But nowadays, this is not a problem anymore, because we can find something like this example. So because here we are giving this educational class, so I cannot recommend some brands, but you can find in the store something like this: plant food for vegetables and herbs. Easy. So you don't need to be doing the math or something like that. Just buy the product. Or sometimes you can find just a general plant food, just fertilizer, and read the label. So in the label, even if in the label, here, like the presentation of the product, you don't see vegetables or herbs. Sometimes you keep reading the label, you find that if you're applying this for vegetable garden, apply this dose. If it's for herbs, apply this dose. Mix with water, or doing this way, or this way, or this way. So always read the label. I know that sometimes it's it's like a mini book in there, like a little magazine with tiny letter. And it's like, oh, no, I'm just going to put a little bit. So try to avoid that and read the label, or ask someone to read the label for you, because it's really important to follow the instructions. Each company, they have a different instruction, so it's not the same for every fertilizer that you see in the store. So in this way, follow the label, and that's it. It's going to be easy. And for indoor plants, I highly recommend go for the liquid fertilizers. There are some of them that they are liquid and they look like the hand soap. So you can just add, push or well, different bottles, put a little bit or just squeeze a little bit in water, 1 gallon of water or less, and that's it. Easy, and just apply to the plants. So with the liquid fertilizers is less risk about burning the plant or over fertilizing, compared with the little ball, the granulate version. With the granulate version, the nice thing about that is that it lasts longer. So it takes time for those little pellets, little balls to dissolve. So it's a slow release. So of course, this is just a general advice about fertilize every 2 to 4 weeks for indoor plants and 4 to 6 weeks for herbs in the ground. It's just general recommendation because, as I mentioned before, each fertilizer is different, so always read the label. Right now, okay, so if we have right now the plant, yeah, we're happy with our herbs, or the seeds are finally germinating and we have beautiful herbs at home. That would be perfect. Like only you and your herbs and no more. But in the same way that you have herbs and you want those herbs to be growing and then eating that delicious herbs, there are many organisms that they also like those delicious herbs. So you can find these little insects here in the picture. They look big, they look huge, but actually most of them, they are tiny, they are small ones. So you can find aphids, for example. This is very common. Aphids, this can be like this black, this color, black or green, or some of them like yellow, brownish color. We can find some scales. We can, like these ones, we can find these little insects that you can see sometimes, like it looks like cotton, and it's easy sometimes to confuse these ones with a fungus, because the fungus has, of course, that cotton appearance. But these insects, they are a little tricky to control because of the same texture that they have. It's hard to be controlling, to be applying something. And something that is also hard to be controlling about pests and diseases at home is because you cannot be buying, for example, these Sevin or some of these fungicides or, sorry, insecticides and spraying at home, because those are highly toxic. Take in mind that this poison, these insecticides, they are going to kill animals. So in this case, these tiny animals. So if you're spraying some insecticide indoors, that can also affect you, everybody in the room, so in the house. So for pets, for humans, for everybody. It's different than fungicide, that is still toxic, but not affecting you in the same way than insecticides. So the best way to be controlling pests and diseases is, number one, is the proper selection. It means being picky when you're buying the herbs. When you're buying the herbs, if you're getting the herbs from the store, be picky about that. So if you see these little insects, or you move, it's something so simple, it's just shaking the plant. And you can see, for example, the white flies, they start flying around and then going back to the plant. So just in that way, checking the plant, you can realize, oh, if you see something like that, some like little white flies flying around, avoid that. Avoid that plant. Don't bring that home, because, or if you're bringing home something like that, and if it's a good temperature outside, quarantine that plant, and you can spread the insecticide outdoors. So okay, that's another option. But if it's like the best advice, avoid that. Don't buy that plant. And the second thing that you can be doing is give your herbs the proper conditions that they need to be growing. Sorry. So if the recommendation is always read about the plant that you want to grow, because here I cannot mention, there is not a general rule for all of the herbs, even when we're talking today about herbs, only herbs. So there is not a general rule. So oregano, the requirements for oregano about light, fertilizer, water, everything is different than peppermint, for example. So for peppermint, you don't need to be taking much care of peppermint because sometimes they can be even invasive. If you have directly in the ground, they can be even invasive. And so it's different for each plant. So always read about that. That if my plant wants and also needs water and not tolerating dry soil, so you need to be really attentive and taking care of that and watering and not overwatering. For example, with basil, basil is highly susceptible to be dry. That's why we kill basil all of the time, because you forget 1 2 days to be watering the basil, and it's, for example, 1 2 3 days dry, and then it start dying. And even when you add some water, sometimes the basil is just too weak and is not recovering from that. So if you know the needs from the plant, you can provide that. Why to be doing that, and why this in controlling pests and diseases? Because a healthy plant is equal to a strong plant. And when the plant is strong, so in that way, the insects, even when there are some insects and pest diseases, because it's not only the insects, also the fungus, microorganisms, they are not going to attack the plants easily because the plant is strong. It's same like for many organisms, like we being human or animals, that if we have a good nutrition, it's hard for the virus or many microorganisms to be making us sick. But if we are just weak, we don't have enough water, we don't have enough nutrients, so we get sick with everything, with any viral particle in the environment, right? So for the plants, it's like that. Just a plant that is sick, a plant that is weak, that it doesn't have any nutrients, is going to be sick. It's going to be susceptible. Another tip is remove the affected leaves or the plants. If you see that there are some leaves that they are turning brown, some spots that you see that is not the same. It's not the same the plant when it's sick, when it's just dropping some leaves that is natural. So how you know the difference? Because when the plant is sick, when there is some fungus or some bacteria or something attacking the plant, it's just local. Usually it's just one part of the plant, and usually it can be on the top, in the middle of the plant, or at the bottom of the plant. And it's just like in one spot, and then spraying to the rest of the plant. When we have just a healthy plant, that some leaves are turning brown or yellow, and it's just a natural process, because the leaves also, they reach some age and then it falls from the plant. So usually these ones are, if the leaf is turning yellow, it's all the leaves, and it's turning brown, is the like, you don't see spots or just different patterns. It's just the leaf, and usually the bottom ones, they are turning yellow and then dropping those leaves, and the plant keeps growing healthy, and that's the difference. So you can notice one plant with the other plant when it's a disease, or when it's just the natural process. And if you have the plant is just in general, all the plant is dying, and this pot, for example, I have this pot here, and all of these plants here, my herbs are dying, it's better to sacrifice that pot and just throw that away and save the rest of them at home. And if it's still there is time to be doing something. So if it's just one plant or a little part of the plant, so you can cut that part of the plant that is getting sick, take that away, far away, probably in the garbage, not in the garden, because that also can affect the plants in the garden. And use horticultural oils or some insecticide. Sometimes you can find the products like some soaps. Uh, Something that is now is being used is the neem oil. Probably I can. Okay, the neem oil, Neem, neem oil. That is so nice because first it's natural and it's approved to be used indoors. So it's not going to affect your animals, your fishes, or any animal indoors or human indoors, your child, etc. It's a little stinky. It smells very strong, but it's not toxic for you. So it's toxic for the insects and for fungus. So it has double effect. That is fungicide and it's also insecticide. So it keeps the insects away. It's not 100% efficiency that you spray and 100% of the insects are going to die or are going to be out of the plant, but it keeps them away and it's still highly effective. And it's nice just to protect your plants also because fungus can be sometimes challenging and it's better to protect the plant, especially because with bacteria or fungus, once they are inside of the plant, there is not much to do. So it's better to prevent that. And spraying, for example, the neem oil, you can do it with a bottle, a spray bottle, something small. You don't need equipment to be doing that. Something small, you spray it on the plants, on the leaves, and that is a natural protection for the plants. And another thing is don't water the plants at night because watering the plants at night, it can create that perfect environment, like not much light, it's not too hot, it's cooler enough, and it's the humidity is higher. So especially for fungus, bacteria, for these microorganisms, it's the perfect environment to start attacking and just pinching those cells of the plant and going inside of the plant. So try to avoid watering the plants at night. It's better early in the day or in the afternoon, just giving enough time for them to dry out. And also talking about diseases, a common one, especially starting from seeds, is this. The name is damping off, and it's when the plant is growing and yeah, you're happy because finally the seeds are germinating and yes, successful. But at some point when it's growing, it's like, it looks like if someone just pinch the plant and it's very like dry in the middle and then the plant die. So in this case, don't worry, it's not having a black thumb or something like that. It's not your fault. It's about that there is a fungus. It is a fungus, a fungal disease in the soil, but it's just affecting your seedlings when these first days. Once the plant is growing up, it's normal. It's not going to be affecting your plants. But if you want to avoid this, you can treat this damping off disease just dropping like here 1 milliliter of 3% hydrogen peroxide in the soil and for the affected plants, and that's it. So it's just, well, here also mentioned about some metalaxyl M. So because I cannot recommend the brands or products, this is the component. So you can find metalaxyl M products online. So it depends if you're in different cities, areas, online, it is going to show you the products that you can buy for that. And you can spray that. Here it's a pre-emergence. So it means when you plant the seeds before the seeds start growing. So in that way, you reduce the risk of doing that. And other than that, just plant even more seeds. That's something that I recommend if you want 20 plants. So try to put more of those. It's better to be removing the seedlings and just removing seedlings later and not just starting with 20 and then you wanted 20 plants and then you have only 15 or 10. Okay, we're 11:53. Okay, we still have some time to be talking about the last part of this presentation, that is harvesting. So for the harvesting, this is finally that moment when we feel like, yes, we are successful, because finally we are harvesting our herbs and it feels great. When finally you can be cooking with your herbs, and when you take that plate to the table and say, yes, that basil in the pasta, I was growing that basil, or these chives, this rosemary in the steak, etc. So yeah, that is organic. So that is organic, and I was growing that basil, that herb, or just drinking your tea and feeling that you have been growing those herbs. But we need to pay attention for the harvesting, because we can actually kill the plants. So the idea is to be harvesting and taking as much as we can from the plants. So take in mind that the plants are not immortal. So don't feel bad if at some point after a month, or well, it depends each plant, the plants start just dying, or just yeah, turning brown and dry, getting dry and dying, because for many herbs they have just some period of time and that's it, they are annual. So in this case, you need to be just restarting again the seeds and planting again, or just taking some parts of the plant and regrowing your herbs. So for the harvesting, do a regular harvest during the season. Like right now, you can be cutting and harvesting your plants. You can be doing this with your hands, or if it's, for example, rosemary that is not that easy to pull with your hands, you can do it with scissors. Try to disinfect your scissors. It can be only with, for example, a solution with water and alcohol, or just spraying a little bit of alcohol. So in that way, if there is some fungus or bacteria or something in one plant, we're not moving that to the next plant. And just the normal cultural practices, that is removing the dead leaves, the flowers, especially for mint, for basil. Try to be just pinching the flowers. Don't leave the flowers to be growing a lot unless you want the flowers, because especially for herbs, we want just the leaves, the green part of the plant, and not the flowers. Unless you want the flowers, as I mentioned before, because, for example, just here, one tip, if you didn't know, that the flowers of the basil, it works if you have the basil flowers, and make tea with that. You just boil with a little water and drinking that. That helps you to calm down. And also when you have headaches, like strong headaches, I forget the term for the very strong headaches, and that helps for that. So, okay, in that case, it's good to have the flowers. If not, just be removing the flowers. Pick the herbs early in the day. Why is that? Because just the heat, the direct sunlight is pulling those natural and essential oils from the stem to the leaves. So in that way, you can be harvesting those oils. So it's going to be the smell is the concentration of oils is going to be higher. So the plants are the taste. I don't know how to describe the flavor, the smells, and taste is better. It's way better, but not a huge difference if you are harvesting, for example, late in the day. So it's just that the ideal. If not, no worries, you can harvest in the afternoon too. And this tip, this recommendation is especially if you want to dry the herbs, if you want to put in the dehydrator or the oven to have the dry herbs for cooking later, for cooking another time. So it's nice. And when you need the seeds of the plant, so you need to wait until the end. So for example, for cilantro, if you want the cilantro seeds, you don't need to be harvesting the cilantro, just leave the plant growing, and then the flowers, and after the flowers, you see the seeds in there, and then wait until they turn brown. So totally brown and they are dry. In that way, you know that the seeds are good to be planting next year, or when you want to start planting again. So allow them to be dry before storing the seeds. And we can be using our herbs not only for cooking. So we think about herbs, kitchen, that's it. So no, we can be using for many other projects. We don't need to have a laboratory or something fancy to be creating our own products. Because, for example, if you want basil or peppermint lotion, something that smells good, so you can mix that with alcohol and put in a bottle, wait for a couple days, and then you have that oil, the oil from the plants start just getting out of the plant, and you can have like a lotion or hand sanitizer with some smell. You can use it for medicinal purposes. So like I mentioned, for example, basil is good to calm down, to feel better just smelling the basil or drinking the tea, and it's helping you for headaches. For example, the peppermint is good for stomach aches or some issues about stomach. And rosemary, for example, it works for memory, to improve the memory. So if you're studying and you want to be good with your memory and to be reminding better, so to improve your memory, enhance your memory, you can be smelling, just with the smelling the rosemary when you're studying or when you are reading or doing that thing that you want to remember easier in the future. So that helps for that. You can be drinking for medicinal purposes. You can be having the oil, natural oil, fresh, dry, drinking the tea, or cooking. So you can find many recipes about this also in, well, I mentioned YouTube. Sometimes not everything that you see online is true. So pay attention about that. And not all the resources online are legit. So try to find some channels or some resources from universities or from some reliable source, because not everything online is good to be doing. I have seen some of these videos and they are literally teaching how to kill your plants and how not to be growing or doing things with your plants. And also for skincare products, so you can do your own products. Just an example that you can smash the chamomile and add to your shampoo. That's something that usually grandma, she was doing that because the chamomile, it provides some nutrients for your hair. And not only with herbs, there are some another products, like for example, the onions. I know the smell is strong, but onions in the shampoo, and that also provide nutrients for hair and helps to have the hair thicker and to be growing your hair faster. Sorry about this. I was thinking that recipe with the onion and the shampoo, but well, with herbs you can also be doing something like this. So read about that. There are many medicinal purposes. For example, oregano. It's also good for when you have ear infection or just there is painful your ears. So just warming the oregano in a pot without anything, just warming that, just heating up that oregano, and then just pinching that in that natural water that comes from the oregano, that is antibiotic, and that also helps for ear infections. So this is just something that I have read, I have seen in my family especially, and it's not a medical suggestion or a medical recommendation, because of course we are not here in a medical class, in a medicine class or something like this. So this is, you want to use this used under your own responsibility. And we can do our own perfumes, use it for meditation, relaxation, something like the lavender can help you to sleep better, to focus, to calm down. And also for pest repellent, you can smash, for example, peppermint, citronella, the lemongrass with some alcohol, keep in a bottle and spray on your skin. And that is going to be a mosquito repellent. There are many recipes, many ways that you can be using your herbs. And like we mentioned in the beginning, growing our own herbs at home, that helps to save money. Most of them, they grow by themselves. You don't need to be paying much attention. I know we talk about the light and the fertilizer and watering, but other than that, they don't need like a lot of pruning or a lot of things. So you are going to be doing the pruning when you're harvesting. That's something that is nice. That is harvesting and pruning at the same time. It's nice to have different shapes and colors all year round, even in the gray and cold months. The fresh taste, it's not the same to be eating or drinking or using the herbs from the store that they have been dry or just after weeks or days or weeks to be there. Is different, the taste, when you just harvest directly from the window directly to your kitchen, to your pot, or your drinks, also for the juice, for the cocktails, etc. And also, you can start a business with this. So they grow. If you take care of the plants, they can be growing a lot, and it's so easy to process these ones to dehydrate the herbs, and you can sell fresh or dry. So it's also that possibility of start your own business with herbs. And you don't need a lot of budget or resources because herbs, they grow a lot. So they are a good option. And also having fun, just decorating the pots and having these fun projects with the kids and growing the herbs at home. That's just fun. And it's so rewarding, like I said, when you finally are enjoying your own herbs and you can show and brag that in front of everybody in the table when you are just so proud of be growing that herb and having delicious meals, delicious drinks in the table because you were growing those herbs at home. So, okay, sorry. With 2 minutes. I took 2 extra minutes from the class. So right now we have a short space because of course it's more than 12. A short space for questions that you have right now. Let me check the chat. If we have some questions in the chat. Nope. So feel free if you have questions right now to feel free to unmute your microphone and ask. And if not, if you don't have any questions like right now, you always can reach out to this email that you can see here and ask about herbs or any other gardening topic. You can be sending your picture, for example. Oh, I have this insect eating my plants and I don't know what is that. You can send the pictures and we always are happy to help. Sometimes we take some time to reply, but we always reply. And if not, because sometimes the emails go to the spam folder, so send another email or a call. And we are always happy to help as soon as we can. We are going to be there helping you with whatever you need. So any questions right now? Okay, so if not, and like I mentioned before, you can reach out anytime to this email or just call. And stay tuned because we always have classes, even during the winter, all year round. We have classes. Right now, we're getting ready for the Master Gardener training for 2023 after years not having a training here in Allegheny County. So you can check our website and I'll show you here. And our website. And here in gardening, you can find information. So we are working on this. For example, here, become a master gardener. And but we're still working on this website. And if you're interested, reach out at any time because we're starting the enrollment process next month in September, and then starting the classes in November. So we are going to be training new master gardeners for the 2024. Okay, so that's it. I hope that this class can be useful for you, and I'll see you in the next class. Okay, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next opportunity. Bye-bye.